What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Soccer Wise. David Goss and Jordan Angeli with you for a massive show. It has finally arrived. We have said we are an NWSL show for a month. We haven't actually been one because no one has been. Everyone's been on vacation. And Jordan, we are officially back this weekend.
It feels wonderful. A little overwhelming, but the break, I think, was, for me, I had an amazing time. I really liked this July break. Can we do this every single summer? It felt like I could live my life a little bit as a normal human being, which is pretty nice, Gus. I don't know. You didn't really get off because you also do MLS stuff, so you constantly were working. But did you get to enjoy any time off?
So it's funny to me that you say this in a month in which you called a global tournament and helped announce the brand of a launch soccer team and helped create Kickback Media, that you were like, oh yeah, it was so nice to be off. I wouldn't use that as the word of what you've experienced over the last month, but it was different. I will say that.
Yeah.
I will be honest. I did not stream a ton of Teal Rising Cup games.
Me neither.
So I was slightly off.
Don't come here for that information if you want it, people.
No. We're going to talk a little Euros, WAFCON, Copa America Femenal. There has become a slightly different feeling for me when it's I'm watching this with no intent of analyzing it.
Yeah.
And there's this fun vibe to it, especially the way the schedule was, where it's I was out on Long Island and just put games on the TV and was that's just in the background for 10 hours today.
It's summer soccer. It's just your background noise. Instead of playing music, it's football on TV.
And the Euros specifically, it's such a vibe of games are going extra time and PKs and whatever, and you're bouncing in and out of it. So all of that was really fun. We were in Austin, Texas together, which was
fun.
A blast last week. That's where I got this cool hat.
Nice hat, Goss.
Now I got to manage it though, because I'm a very sweaty person in Miami. So I can't wear it out in settings in which, yesterday I went to play soccer. Can't be my soccer hat.
It's not it's too nice for a soccer hat.
It's
even though it is a soccer hat.
Yes.
It's actually a football club hat,
FC.
not a soccer club. Yeah.
FC.
You're
not going to win me over on that one.
I know.
There's no chance.
Yeah. It's a conversation for a different day.
Okay.
But it's a good looking hat. And you know what? I loved gifting you guys those hats. The day the brand got launched, I already had merch in my hands. And I was
I think that morning you said you were sewing it because no one knew until that
I was.
Day of what
It
the
was a
brand
quick
was.
sew. It was a quick sew in the hotel I was in Austin. But I think for a quick sew, I did a pretty good job on those hats.
Yeah, I would agree. How was the event this weekend?
It was incredible.
We're just going to do this every show, by the way, so people get prepared for that.
Yeah, it was incredible. Every moment, every next step in this process has continued to just overwhelm me with so much happiness, really. Just I had a person I know from growing up. I used to play against her all the time, and we've reconnected. She came. One of my best friend's husband and her 3 daughters came. She was at the Backstreet Boys, so she wasn't able to come, which I told her, I get it. My family was all there. Danielle Foxhoven was there, a former NWSL player who grew up here in Colorado. A girl I know from the deaf U.S. women's national team. It was all of these different pockets of people.
It's a combo episode. It's the crossover show to end the
Yes, you're
the season.
Hi, oh my gosh. And just to see all the people, 4,000 people showed up, and the merch line was, people waited almost 2 hours to get merch, and they waited to get the merch. It was just, it's hard to explain in words, but that was a moment where it's all right, we're really doing this. This is happening. This is our logo. There is Denver Summit FC on a hat. People are wearing it. It was really so cool for a little girl from Lakewood, Colorado, to see this all happen. So no tears, but happiness.
Does it feel different or more real each time?
Yes.
Okay.
When you see, I had seen when we first knew that we were getting the team back in December, I had seen perspective colors. And that made me cry because I was like, whoa, we're a team. These are our colors. This is real. And then there was so much work behind the scenes. I was on the naming committee. We were pulling and taking all this information in. And so I knew the direction we were going as far as the name, but I didn't see the brand until just a couple days before it was launched. And so, yeah, those steps, you're just, and pretty soon we'll have head coach, we'll have players, and though every single step, it's just like, pinch me, pinch me, pinch me. Like, this is coming to Colorado.
It is very exciting. We've had some Boston news as well. We've got 2 expansion teams coming, as Boston has announced some player signings, sent them out on loan. So there's a lot going on, even off the field, in the NWSL sphere. And then, of course, there's a lot going on the field as we return to play this weekend. Before we get there, though, let's talk a little bit about this international experience. So, congrats to the Lionesses and the Super Falcons so far. We have a champion in Africa from Nigeria, and we have a champion in Europe from England. I believe they were both come from behind wins. So I think Nigeria was trailing 2-0 in the final in Morocco against Morocco, which is an unbelievable comeback. And then, of course, England was trailing to everyone the entire tournament, the whole time. I think I saw a stat that they led for 5 minutes in total.
That
outside
is wild.
of the group stage. Yeah. And they lost the opener of the group stage, and they end up winning the entire tournament, which I still am having trouble grappling with. You know the quality of the team. You know the quality of the players. I don't think I saw the quality of the performance over the full tournament, and yet it's a tournament. And like, this stuff happens all the time, and the only thing people will remember fairly is that they won, that England is champions, and the whole thing happened again. It's a little hard for me to compute with, but I guess seeing it for a second time makes it a little bit easier of like, yeah.
I think it's also difficult because in the last Euros, they played so well and they were like scoring goals and very exciting in what they were doing. And this time it was a little bit more defensive, like that output wasn't quite there, what maybe we would have expected. Whereas then you watch the French team and you're like, how are they not there? How is this French team yet again the bridesmaid and not the bride? But yeah, I think for England, you got to figure out a way. In big tournaments, that's where you make your name known, and they figured out a way. And it's cool that some of these NWSL players now are European champions.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool tie-in. People were talking afterwards of like, oh, I would like to see more Lionesses players. And I think one of the things we've always said is the league in England is very good. So, like, you don't have a reason to leave if you don't have to. But Jess Carter, full-time starter throughout the tournament, unfortunately was dealing with abuse off the field on social media, which is absurd, and then ended up having a phenomenal game in the final and was a huge part of keeping Esther under wraps, who went on to win the Golden Boot, the Gotham FC forward who is leading in the Golden Boot race as well. In NWSL, Anna Morehouse and Esme Morgan, parts of the England squad that was able to get the victory. So a lot to be excited about on that side. And as you said, I think the connection across the tournament, which is really interesting. I was talking to someone about the international layoff, and it's like, was it the right thing to do? Is it such a long time? But the league is so internationally geared now that, like, as you go through, as we talked about last week, MVPs, Defensive Player of the Years, all these awards, it is players that were playing in these tournaments across the world. You could not have had NWSL, I think, in this time span because you would have missed so many stars. And I think there's a huge positive there, which is like the global stars are playing in this league and it's competing to be the best league in the world. Then you have some people asking the questions of like, do we have enough American and homegrown stars? Is there opportunity? And I think the answer to both is yes.
I agree.
And I don't know if that's because the American pool of players that Emma Hayes now has leaned on is so young. So there's like a clear, to me, obvious, like the Ali Sentners and Alyssa Thompsons and Claire Huttons of the world are the future. So there's clearly opportunity there, but maybe they're not the current stars like a Delphine Cascarino and an Esther. And then, of course, you also have Triple Espresso being unavailable for the most part the entire season. And then there's like some other sort of more nuance to it, but clearly you're on the same page as me.
But when you think about it, Goss, and you break down the rosters, 19 players of 26 are from the United States. That it's only 7 international spots on these teams. So really, that is a big chunk of the team that should be homegrown here from the United States, who should have those opportunities. Now, I think what you're saying is when you go and you break for these big tournaments and those players leave, then the players that are their backups don't get the opportunity to shine, or maybe that second role player. And I think that that's part of being a professional. You have to earn your spot. And there are some really good young players who are going to find opportunities within their team, within expansion teams, as the leagues start to grow. It continues to grow, not just now, but in the future, where if you steward your time underneath a player like Delphine Cascarino really well, you could go and find a spot that really you can shine. So I think that it is yes and yes. I think both can win in this scenario. But it is, I don't know how the players liked it. It's like almost having another preseason, essentially, in the middle of your season. But I bet the coaches liked it because they got to hone in on some tactics that maybe they want to implement, maybe trends that they've noticed that they need to get better at. And it finally gives them time in a really congested schedule to have some of that training.
I think the hope would be it'll be stretched a little because the international experience is very tough on you physically, of the travel, the high leverage games in a short amount of time and then coming back. But overall with the rosters, I think the hope would be now this helps teams properly peak into the playoffs as well. That it's not this like end of this marathon that you're sort of coming down off of, but that you're actually able to build up into it, because physically you've had this month now right in the dead center of the season where players have been able to be treated properly. You haven't had to travel as much, like all those things, which I think could be really good for the product.
And I imagine some of these players that played in these tournaments are not going to play substantial minutes in the next couple of games. So you're actually getting to utilize those players who maybe have earned some more playing time in this interim period. So yeah, we'll see. We've never done this before in NWSL. We've done a lot of things. We have not done this before. I'm very interested to see. I feel a little rusty. I wonder if the players feel a little rusty.
I was going to say, what do you expect to see this weekend? I can't really put my finger on, like, week one, we built up so much. We're so excited. We're breaking down depth charts. We're talking about this. And then you get out there and you're like, oh, 50% of these players aren't available. The flow isn't there yet. But this is different because you've played half the season. But it feels like the similarity will be like trying to hit full speed, not having been running for these last month at that level.
I think the level, that's where it comes in, because if you look through most of these teams, they've been playing games.
Yeah.
I can't think of a team where I didn't see. That's not true. I don't know every single team's.
Everyone has, we had Savannah McCaskill on the show and she said they played 2 friendlies against Utah. Every team has played games, whether they're behind closed doors or not.
Right. And so I think that helps and allows them to continue on whatever the path was that they were on, or turn, right? Like divert and say, okay, that's not a good path. Like if you're Utah, you're thinking, how can we use this like what they did last year? Utah in the second half of the season was much different after that short break that led into, what do we call that? That longest tournament ever named Summer Cup.
Summer Cup Series?
Yeah, but it was like whatever. It was a long name. They used that to really get better for the second half of the season. So I don't know what to expect. I would imagine the teams that were high flying are going to continue to be that way. Like I'm not seeing Kansas City change what they do because they had a little time off. Yeah. If anything, I think it is going to be kicked up another gear. But again, I don't know what to expect.
Yeah, it is going to be a unique experience this weekend. There is a range of games across the schedule, a unique schedule. So like three Friday games, I think only 2 games on Saturday, and then 2 games on Sunday. You will be on the ground in Washington, D.C. You'll be in Rowdy.
Isn't that wild? In the flesh.
I feel like you and Rowdy have a decent relationship. You were there for the playoffs last year.
We do, and that was a wild game. Come from behind by the Spirit to win at home. It's fun. I'm so excited to be there. This is only, gosh, I've been in the league since 17. I think this is my 6th time being in a stadium.
That's wild. That is ridiculous.
I should show you I have all my folders from the games that I called. The stack's like
Yeah.
this, this big in my drawer over here. Yeah, so I can't wait. 12:30 p.m. Eastern time, Sunday. We'll talk about that. But I'm excited to be there.
Let's finish off here with the international break. I did not know where you were going with any of that. As we said, congrats to the Nigeria Super Falcons, Asiat Oshala, of course, and Michelle Alozia, both of them playing in NWSL, playing in this tournament. A couple of representatives from college soccer in the USL Super League as well. And as we said, huge victory for Nigeria. They're the all-time leader in women's AFCON wins and playing in Morocco. I believe this is the second of 3 straight WAFCONs that will be hosted by Morocco. It's really cool. Morocco's like a great soccer country. I've been in a lot of Moroccan atmosphere. I've never been, but like I went to a Moroccan Men's World Cup game. I've been to some club games for Moroccan teams. I think hosting one tournament in the same place 3 times probably hurts the growth of the game in the region, but there is also huge question marks about the growth of the game in the region. We talked with Haley Carter about this last year when she came on, about how much potential there is, but how there has to be more work and more resources to really put it all together. And then we still are waiting on our final champion from the Copa America Feminal. We get a rematch of a group stage game, which was somewhat likely when you have 2 groups and every team's in them. We've got Brazil, Colombia coming up again. So that one's 5 p.m. Eastern time coming up on Saturday. Colombia led or had a player up for 66 minutes in the group stage match as Lorena, the KC current goalkeeper, picked up a red card coming way off her line and getting called for a purposeful handball way outside the box. That led to a red card, and Colombia was unable to score for the rest of the game. So hopefully they learned a little bit from that one. And Colombia, I think similar to, you brought up France, I think of Sweden a lot with this. I know Italy had this run to the semifinal, but this was really their high water mark. These are these countries that are sort of like have been sitting on the precipice of they're for real. They are contenders for, deep runs in tournaments. They could win things. And Colombia in the group stage game against Brazil very much felt like a team that let an opportunity go to like establish themselves in that. France, I think, in this tournament did as well. I think Sweden did as well. And so this is a huge opportunity for Colombia. Lacey Santos will not be in Washington, D.C. on Sunday because she will be at this game, as will Dani Arias and Angela Barón from Racing Louisville. And for Brazil, it is a loaded NWSL roster. Lorena, Angelina, Marta, of course, Ari Borges, and Gabby Portillo. It has been a huge connection point. KC Current, hosting that Teal Rising Cup, had 2 Brazilian clubs, I believe Palmeiras and Corinthians, in that competition. I think right now when you look at the region, Brazil, U.S., Canada, as Mexico approaches, you could argue are the strongest nations. And I think it's cool to see this connection between the U.S. and Brazil to sort of build up the region and create sort of these top-heavy or top of the mountain places that teams can earn respect by beating you or get opportunities in playing tournaments in your country or against you. And of course, 2027 World Cup is coming up in Brazil, which is going to be massive. All right, let's dig into the weekend. So what we're going to do is we're going to go game by game in order. We're going to hit all of the news that's happened because we've talked about some of it off and on, but there has been a ton of signings that have happened in the offseason, or in this, of course, I literally called it an offseason, in this summer break. We've had also as well some coaching changes, some coaching news. A lot of extensions have been signed because officially every player who is a free agent is now available. Most of the extension have been announced. We'll talk about some of them, but not all of them because there's just a lot to go through. And we will not mention players that are being sent out on loan because there's about 900 of them. And I do not think we'd be able to get through all of it. We start on Friday night with a huge matchup. Louisville against Kansas City. It was the second to last game of the regular season before we took the break as Louisville was on this run. They were the hottest team in the league. They came up against Kansas City. The question was, how for real was it? Over the first 35, 40 minutes, Kansas City made it look like it wasn't. Louisville found their feet in the second half. Much better the following week against Orlando. So a big prove-it moment for them. In this summer break, though, they have announced officially that they have agreed to a contract extension with Bev Yanez, one of the few former NWSL players who is a current head coach in the league. And of course, this is a team that has perpetually lived in this ninth place spot. It is nice, I think, to see. My guess would be this is not fully off the results they saw in the 2 months before the summer break, because there's a larger conversation happening. But I don't think a huge surprise, but it's nice to see, I think, Jordan's stability for this club.
And I think they found their identity, and it might not be the identity that Bev Yanez ideally wants to play, but she has found a way to get the most out of the players that she has. And if you're a GM, owner, front office, you're looking at what she's been able to do over the first part of this season and I would say it's been building, right? Because they didn't make a ton of moves for 2025. You've got to be really happy with the tweaks that she's made, the mentality that this team has, the buy-in that they have. There's a real belief in this team. And I mentioned it the last time I called the Louisville game. Bev Yanez compares the cohesiveness of this group to the 2014 Seattle Reign team that won the Shield. And the way that they were unified in what they did and how much they believed in themselves. Now, I'm not saying it's the same team. It is not. But there is a feel about this group that I think she is really proud of, that they've cultivated a culture that can be more successful than it has been in the past. So I love this extension for Bev.
And for this club, one of the pitches, I think, for them has been this, like, we punch above our weight, but we really take care of the people in the building. And I think this is an example of that, of like stability helps players perform at their highest level, as well as taking care of your coach. And like, if you prove yourself and you earn your opportunity, it will be there from this team. For Kansas City, on the flip side, we will mention this extension because Kayla Sharple signed an extension with this team. And I think Izzy Rodriguez, in our interview with her at the beginning of the summer break, talked about how influential she is to the back line. Of course, this year with Alana Cook now out, but I think in general for this team, she has become a staple up their spine.
She has even shocked me in moments. I feel like she's continuing to get better. And this is what you want to see from a professional. And sometimes we get to see it. Sometimes we see stability right off the bat. But I do feel like Sharples from Chicago to Bay to now here in Kansas City, you see growth from every single step that she's had. And I like her in this system. Her communication is what helps this team, because when you are going to be expansive, you have to have somebody who leads you in certain moments. It's a big signing. It's a big extension because of the length of it. Was it through 27 or 28? It's a few years. I'll just say that. I can't remember the exact end date. And that's going to be crucial because the Achilles heel of Kansas City last year was their center back depth. And now they get her for a long term. They're getting Gabby Robinson back healthy, hopefully back from that ACL within the next, I would say, I'm hopeful next couple of months. And then you start to really build out, like, we have a core and we have a group that's going to push each other and make sure that, yes, we're scoring goals, but we're also just as proud when we have shutouts.
The options for 28, so it's through 27 with an option for another year.
So I was right with saying both of those.
You were absolutely right. And it's also another example, I think, coming out of the offseason, right? Tabina signed an extension. Like, everyone who's been extension eligible has signed
Cooper, Rodriguez, we talked about that.
So it feels like there is like that opportunity inside the club, knowing like we're in win now mode. This team's really special. Obviously, the atmosphere, the fan base is one you want to play for. I have a Casey Current scarf right there. If you're watching, over my right shoulder or left shoulder. That's not a thing that I'm skilled at. And it is, as you said, a key piece of this back line. And it's going to be important for them in this game, because I think for Kansas City, playing that first game, they were able to sit in a little bit and then really play over the top of Louisville and get Shawinga, but especially Cooper, in space. And that was, I think, partially Louisville being over-indexed on stopping Shawinga and therefore leaving space for Cooper, but also for Kansas City of like they're very comfortable in those modes now because they've gotten much better and cleaner in their lines defensively to be able to sit in and transition. I think Louisville will show a little more balance, but Louisville's at home. Like, I think they're going to open up and push this game. I think this is going to be one No Alana Cook, no Lorena for this one as well. I think this is going to be one where Kansas City's going to be under pressure, and we're going to sort of learn a little bit of how good can they be defensively in these high leverage games.
They're going to be under pressure, absolutely, because that's one of the things that Louisville does not compromise on is the way that they press and the intensity at which they are going to play the game. Like, it is a dogfight when you're playing Racing Louisville. The thing that they have to get right and learn from 2 games ago when they played Kansas City is if they can't step, they can't have a high line. So you have to drop that line and make sure that the space is not behind you. Because if you can get Kansas City running at a back line, that always gives defenders behind the ball an opportunity to recover. And if not, they're going to beat you. They're going to beat you with space and behind Kansas City is. So I think that was the big, when you said the first 30 minutes, it didn't feel like it was a good competition. Louisville has adjusted to that. It's not going to look like they're playing an offside trap like it did in those, which is wild to me, against the team that is most lethal with space and behind.
Listen, though, until you've seen it, you don't know. Like, it had worked against everyone else in the league. I had not played everyone playing that way, but had worked against everyone else. And I do have, I am not a person who is rigid. So I believe in like balance and adjusting to the moment.
Okay.
But I do think when it comes to a lot of teams, but especially a team in Louisville setting of like, we will not be elite in talent at most games when we step on the field. Having a clear defined style that you over-index into over the course of time will leave you better off. But it doesn't feel good in the first 30 minutes at CBKC Stadium when you're getting run off the field.
I hope the crowd in Louisville is good. And I think in order for Louisville to be successful, one of the things that we're starting to see a little bit more often now that, Savannah DeMello has found some balance with the health issues that she was dealing with, is she is being more influential in the game. And she's going to have to be influential because if you are able to, there are moments where there's space by Claire Hutton, by Lola Bonta. If you can drag one of them out and get them into that outside pocket, there's going to be space centrally to try to create. And that's what DeMello's so good at, dribbling at players and committing a foul, having them commit a foul. And so can she get them into a position where they can utilize some of their best assets, which is their attacking set pieces?
One thing I should have mentioned at the top as well, Taylor Flint has signed an extension, which is massive for this team.
That is. She's been underrated.
I could beat the drum.
Why is she always underrated?
In fairness, that's the wrong word. Against us, we did not mention her in our midfielder of the year conversation in Austin last week, which shows that we also are underrating her as we should not. So we're also at fault. We are part of the problem, and we are trying every day to be a little bit better. At the same time, on Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time, Chicago faces off against Gotham. For Chicago, they will be under their 3rd manager of the year. So Masaki Hemi has left after becoming interim, replacing Lauren Donaldson, who Hemi was an assistant to. Hemi has left, has taken over at Lexington SC in the USL Super League, and Ella Masser has taken over as interim. It was a summer in which there was some promise of like true permanent signings made, but overall it feels like Chicago is still in this gray area, unknown coming into this second half of the year.
But there were so many, I did feel like Chicago was making some big strides under Hemi when he was in the interim role. And I think Ella Masser will continue that because Ella, born and raised in the United States, played for the national team here, went and played overseas for a long time. And I think her influence in soccer is very European. It's very like, can we create tight connections? And that's one of the things that Mac Hemi did with them. When they played Gotham just a few weeks ago and they got that draw, it felt like that was the best performance we've seen from Chicago because they were really cohesive. Their lines were tight. When they won the ball, there were options around them. And that is going to be important for Chicago at home on that massive field, because I don't know what it is about the field in Chicago, but it does feel way bigger than any other field when you're playing on it. It just does. So can they continue that? And I don't know. I'm interested to see how Ella tweaks some things, who gets starts that maybe weren't, or playing time that wasn't getting playing time. But for them, it might be good timing to go against this Gotham squad just because they are without potentially, like, I would be shocked if Jess Carter plays.
100%.
I would be shocked. I mean, Portillo won't be there.
Right.
Does Berger play?
Yeah.
I don't think so. So if you're going to fight, because that's what Chicago needs, I think, more than anything, is fight. Like, they have to fight for this. This is the way that you can kind of get that momentum rolling and feel like, all right, we put a good performance against Gotham. Maybe you sneak a 1-0 win, but defensively they have to be cohesive.
Jamise Joseph and Bia Franklin both signed extensions in the summer as well, which positive for the club. Those are young players that they've leaned on who have gotten a lot of minutes, so it makes sense to sort of stay. But going into the conversation of like what this is built around and who knows, that could be pretty big. As you mentioned, this is a Gotham team with a ton of internationals, and so Esther, I assume, won't be available for this game either. And you could kind of go down the list. Tierna Davidson signed an extension in the summer, which good to know, but obviously unavailable for the rest of this season. So it's a Gotham squad that is thin, like overall, and they are thinner now coming out of this international break. So as you said, this could be an opportunity for Chicago, and you would love to see them put their best foot forward to start this second half of the year. I am not very hopeful that we're going to see a group that is way different than what we have seen so far in this season. And if you like the soccer that Hemi played, you could watch the USL Super League. Lexington SC, they are across the board, men's and women's. My understanding is they spend a ton of money. They have their own stadium. It's really cool. And they are not good. Either of the teams. I have no idea what's wrong, but like both teams struggle and both teams are like really well run. So maybe,
I like their colors and their crest.
You're a bit of an expert now. So you're tapping into that
colorways.
side
I'm really into colorways
of your expertise. Friday night. This might be the second best game of the weekend because, of course, the best game is going to be the one Jordan's at, which is Seattle against Angel City. And I would not have said that a month and a half ago when we went into the summer break. Let's start on the Seattle side. Me official, the huge signing. Sofia Huerta coming back from the loan from Leon. Do you think we see a totally revitalized and different Seattle team, or is this still the sit deep, defend, and counter group?
I hope it's, this is the thing.
They could just be better at that. That might just be the...
Yeah, they're playing Angel City, so I doubt Laura Harvey is going to say, we're going to be more expansive.
Yeah.
Because Angel City has been this is the best we've seen Angel City play in this season since they began a few years ago. I think they're going to stick with that 3-back that they've been playing out of 3-5-back. But now you have different options as to how you get creative, right? Do you play Fischel as the target forward and then 2 attacking mids underneath, which could potentially be a Lynn Williams, who could then run in behind, and then Darlene's on one side, Huerta's on another side. It feels like even if they stay in the same system, they are going to be different because they got big fish up top. Yeah. And I think this was the signing that my jaw dropped. I was like, no way. Since she played at UCLA and then decided to go abroad, I have wanted to see me official in this league. And I'm super excited to see what she can do in Seattle. It provides a little bit of a predicament for Laura Harvey because she has a lot of the same player, right? Not that Fischel is like a Heidema or like a Williams, but they all like to play in the same area. I think it leaves Jordan Heidema in a space where she's not going to be the chosen player anymore, which does that light a fire under her and figure out a way to be more of a goal scorer for this team? I don't know, but you needed goals. Laura Harvey needed goals. She knew that. They got a lot younger this year. They're a little bit more scrappy. Their principles are back. I'm excited to see what this looks like with Huerta, and I mean, you even have Curry, so you could play Curry as one of the 3 center backs who could dribble up in that central channel. I don't know. I don't know how she's going to play. There's options, which maybe, Goss, is the best thing about it.
This is the Huerta loan feels like it went as well as possible, which
Yeah, I
is
think
like
so.
you kind of reset yourself and you stayed above the waterline without her. She got to have this experience she clearly wanted, which was to play in Champions League, play at a big European club, got a ton of minutes, but is still like in a spot where I think it's 17 appearances across the year for Lyon, which is exactly the amount of games Seattle has already played. So like physically is not going to be coming out of this full year of Europe into the full second half of the year of NWSL. And you have a clear idea of how she can play for you now and like how she fits in. That feels amazing. And then, as you said, now you've got depth and options to move pieces around. But like you had to play Darlene early because you didn't have other options and you wanted to, like high prospect and all of that. And now you're in a situation where you can sort of figure out how it all fits together and how it all moves.
Can I just say one more thing? You could also play Huerta as a winger.
Yeah.
And Curry is behind her. You know, that's also options that you have because, I mean, that's why Huerta has so many assists. She used to be a winger in this league.
Yeah.
And I think people may forget that or weren't around when that was happening. So,
Darlene the same, right? You could play
Darlene
fullback,
the same.
wing back, winger, wide forward. There's a ton of options. We debated the Heidema thing when we were in person in Austin because I've been underwhelmed by the performances or the results from her. Mm-hmm. But I do think you are looking at a player who is a factor in the box, whether it's because of height, because of physicality, winning 50-50s. And one of the problems in Seattle has been they haven't been able to get you there.
Yeah.
So the question is there a way that she, Biondolo, and Fischel all fit together that gets you there, or all three of them players who are at their best once you've already arrived into the final third and therefore you're picking between them? That's all part of what Laura Harvey's going to have to figure out in the second half of the year. But as you mentioned, they probably won't have more of the ball against Angel City. That's not a bad thing to start this like new era with of like, oh, there's space to run into, there's space to play over the top. Alex Strauss is the new manager for Angel City, will take over, made a couple big additions in this summer. We had already talked about the Icelandic international that they had added. Now they add Sarah Dorsen, a 33-year-old German international center back coming over from Eintracht Frankfurt, which now is a bit of a trend of obviously players coming from the Bundesliga where Strauss has a background, but also I think it's players that know him wanting to play for him, which I think is really promising for Angel City. And then Evelyn Shores signing a 20-year-old center mid from UNC, one of the highest prospects coming out of college soccer, and Allie Riley coming off the season-ending injury list and being available for the first time for this team this year. There is a lot to like about Angel City from the first half of the year. There's a lot of excitement about finally having a full-time head coach in place. You add in some experience and some signings here. It feels like Angel City has the potential with the right results here to like really start the second half of the year on an exciting front foot.
They do. I talked about this last week. I think that this might be one of the teams that you need to watch this second half of the season because of Strauss, and he comes into a team who can score goals. They have the best rookie goal scorer in the league. Not even that, like one of the best goal scorers in the league up front. They have the best winger in the league in Alyssa Thompson. They're fast, they're aggressive, but they also ship a lot of goals. And so can he utilize this time to shore some of those things up? I think the German international helps a lot. Stability maybe with Shores. I don't know where or if she is at the level to be able to play, but you create a little bit more depth in the midfield. I'm very interested to see the changes that Strauss makes in this time and is able to implement and hopefully change some of those 4-3 wins for Angel City into, I still want goals, so 3-1. 3-1. 3-1 sounds a lot better, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think that would be a great improvement. Just something where, they keep the excitement because this is what you're in the City of Angels. You need to perform. You have to be a show. You really do, Goss. Like, you have to be a show. You get huge audiences. So can they just hone that in slightly that's why I think this is going to be a fun matchup. I don't know if it's my second favorite matchup of the weekend though.
Oh, really? Okay.
No.
Well, I assume we'll get to it at
Yeah,
some
we
point.
yeah,
Unless it
we
was
haven't gotten
Chicago
there
Gotham.
already.
We haven't been there already.
No, we haven't.
Although you could convince me on Louisville, Kansas City as well. But in saying that, I think Angel City is one of the must-watch teams because of the way they play. And I am so excited to see Seattle and what they look like and the addition of talent. And I think the matchup and all of that is what gets me really excited about this one. Two other pieces of news. Claire Emsley has left to begin maternity leave. So congratulations to her and her family.
I didn't know that until I just read that right now.
Yeah, it is. But it is
That's
also a
awesome.
huge loss on the field for
Yes.
this season. Has been, I think, outside of the moments for Alyssa Thompson, the most consistent attacker.
Yeah. I would
for
say
this
over the last
team.
few years they're
going to have to find a way to replace that and fill in for that. And I think adding all the talent they did is going to, help you get there to an extent. But it is still something to watch out for. And Sam Meza signing an extension with Seattle is huge for Seattle. The Sam Meza star is rising. I think it will continue to rise. To be able to get a deal done now before she is a U.S. national team starter or potentially a Mexican national team starter. Either way, she's been one of the finds of the season. It's an example of what USL Super League can do with more soccer jobs and more opportunity and more spots. And we see a huge slew of players that have been sent out on loan coming out of this summer. And a lot of them are hoping to do what Meza did, which is reestablish themselves at the pro ranks, figure out how they fit in. I think you're getting a ton of feedback from the coaching staffs with your NWSL team about these are the things we want you to work on. This is what we're seeing. And then to be able to come back and implement them is huge. Let's move on to Saturday. North Carolina hosting San Diego. A big matchup. San Diego, a team we talked a lot about last week when we talked about the must-watch teams. They have made 2 additions, and you won't be shocked to hear that they are young attacking players to add to this project. So Larina Fazer, coming over from PSG, is a 2-time Young Player of the Year already in France. And then Dudinya, who won't be available this weekend because is a part of the Brazil squad down in Copa America. 20-year-old winger from São Paulo, has been one of the best young attackers in all of Brazil. And it goes into names like this, profiles like this. Like, it's exciting, but a lot of times you look at it and it's hard to break through and make a difference when you look at some of the teams in NWSL. This is the team you'd put players like this on. I'm just copying you and seeing how much I can hit as I talk. Of like the opportunities that Gia Corley has gotten, the opportunities that Mel Barcenas is getting. Like, if anyone's going to embolden players like this and say, take players on, take risks, we're behind you, it's going to be Jonas Eideval in this group.
Yeah, I think Cammie Ashton has done a really good job of being the GM of this team and recognizing young talent. We did not know who Gia Corley was, and now she is one of the most exciting players in the league right now. And you look at these young players, they could come in, and I don't know the minutes they'll play, but I do know that the system under Eideval and the fluidity, the fun, it looks fun.
Yeah.
That you have to grow. There's no other option in what they're doing. And so I like these 2 signings. You add some depth to the midfield in a different way with Fraser. Is that how you say it? Fraser? It's French. I'm gonna
Really,
work
we're
on
going to
that.
look at me on the French name?
I heard her say it, and then I stumbled and I second guessed myself. You just got to say it confidently, Goss.
Yeah.
And then a winger, which, I think that there are some players, like I think of, oh my gosh, how am I blanking on her name? Young Ascanio. Ascanio has been playing as a winger at time, but can be a 10 as well, right? So you bring in another winger, you allow her to play centrally in a more supportive role underneath a 9. There's just good options there, and this is the game that I think is my second favorite game of the weekend, because the style of play of both of these teams is great. And North Carolina is not happy with the first meeting that these 2 had, and now they're at home and they're going to want to have a better performance. So I'm excited to see what changes Sean Nahas has put in, because they're not bringing players in, but they have this cohesive group. How can they get them to be a little bit more dominant in front of the goal? Because you're going to, if you're not nearly perfect defensively, San Diego is going to find a way to break you down. And I kind of think because of the timing and when France went out, maybe Cascarino, maybe the French players will be available. Cascarino, really the only player, but I'm excited for this game for the stylistic aspect, and it will be a chess match because these teams want the ball and they make it difficult on the opponent when they do have the ball.
We talked with Savannah McCaskill about this team on the show. If you haven't listened to that interview, go back and listen to it. It's one of the best interviews I've ever been a part of. Like, ability to break down the game. And then obviously she's coming from a point of view of changing positions, playing with players who are also shifting positions and playing under a new coach. And it has all worked so well. And from the outside, like, you have your ideas about maybe why, and then you hear her explain it and you're like, oh, the real reason why is because everyone's soccer IQ is like off the map on this team, even the young players. And so they're just able to like pivot and react and connect in so many different ways. I want to pull this out of the live chat we have on YouTube. It's Owen Spangler saying, what to watch for coming out of the break. Sean Nahas having time to polish up a 3-1-4-2, leaving Jackson as a single pivot or subbing her out for Shaw and Sanchez and sliding Sully from the 8 to the 6. It could be pretty clever. It was a like find it on the run situation for North Carolina in the first half of the year, which we didn't expect. It felt like Caroline was out, Shaw was in, they had figured it all out, and now going forward, we saw Sanchez moved around, we saw the formation moved around, we saw Tanaka moved around. Like, there wasn't a lot of true in-pen answers in the first half of the year for a club that felt like they were pretty figured out coming into the season. Now they've gotten this month for a coach who loves to have a cohesive system where players can pre-anticipate what's happening and sort of understand the flow and everything. And for North Carolina, it's like now or never. Like, you're getting a 1-month mid-season break to work on your system and work on what you do best. This has to be a good second half of the year.
It really does. It has to be a good second half. And they have, I think what we get a little like we scratch our heads with, if when you look at their team, maybe they don't have the goal scoring 9 that, you got to pay the big bucks for. Like that, that's part of it. Yeah. You got to pay the big bucks for that. And maybe with the new,
a record contract, if you want that player, that's what we were talking about.
And maybe the new ownership with Lauren Holiday being a part of it. One of the best players to ever play in the leagues across the United States and internationally. Maybe she'll push a little bit more for a player like that. But there's still goals in this team. There's still some of the best midfielders. I think Riley Jackson has been excellent. And so can you get her into a place where she is driving a little bit more higher, and that allows rotations to happen in front of her that shift the back line and create space for some of the 10s. Manaka, her creativity in the attacking third is, sometimes second to none in what she can pull out of a hat, right? She finds ways when she's in the attacking third to get things done. So that's what they need to do. They need to find more goals. Like that's the answer that they have to have this second half of the season, because defensively they've got really solid, strong pieces. And I would imagine, I hope, we haven't seen availability reports. You hope that they've also gotten everybody healthy, and so they can pick from everybody, which has been a slight issue here this season as well.
And they are very young, right?
Yeah.
All the players you just mentioned are 21 and under. Koyama was like one of the big additions in the offseason. I think has looked good in flashes. 20 years old, coming to a new league. Jaden Shaw, a lot of expectations. 21 years old. Like, this is a really young Riley Jackson. This is a really young team. And so the hope then would be also you get that breath after the first half of the year. You realize here's the expectations, here's the physical. Like, some players are learning about the league, some players are learning about being starters. Other players like Jaden Shaw are trying to fit in, and now it's like an opportunity to sort of do that. Would be really big for this North Carolina team because there should be expectations, and there is a ton of talent. So that is 7:30 p.m. on Saturday. I would feel safe in betting that if I did this, like, here's the top 2 games of the weekend or must watch or whatever, whatever, that San Diego will sneak into your list fairly often.
Somehow.
So I probably
You should have guessed
started
that.
there.
You should have guessed that.
Saturday night, Bay will face off against Houston. We don't know Oshoala's availability. We don't know Aloise's availability. I don't know when they left Morocco and what the travel back is, but I think you sort of touched on it. Like, the expectation should be most of these players are not starting, if giving you any minutes, just to take care of them and like make sure that you're set up best for the second half of the year. Houston did make a signing in the summer break. They signed Clarissa Larissi from Crystal Palace, a 26-year-old Canadian who has played around Europe throughout her career coming out of college and now getting an opportunity to come back to NWSL. These are two teams who never really found themselves in the first half of the season. They had their flashes and their moments. Houston, it was maybe a little bit of a slower start to the new era than we expected. And so these are some big question mark teams now facing off on Saturday night to restart the second half of the year.
My thoughts on these two teams as they go into this match, Houston, it has to be a little bit, with so many changes, I felt like they were just too slow in moments. Their pace of play drug them down. So is that something that they worked on? Can they be a little bit, when they have the ball, a little bit more high intensity in the way that they move it? Having a center forward after losing Diana Ordonez, selling her to Liga MX Femenil, you need a center forward. And so is this the answer? I don't know. From what I've seen stats wise, I don't think she's going to give you all the goals that you are going to hope for. But can she be a target and allow players around her to be successful, like a Yasmin Ryan? That is a possibility. For Bay, tinkered with a lot of different formations, kind of ended on this 4-4-1-1 where Taylor Huff was just playing underneath Oshoala, who looked good. Now that you don't have her, is it a Tess Bodie who plays up there to hold the ball and allow the pace of Lima and Kundananji to get in beyond? I don't know. I think Bay confuses me because they say they want to do one thing, and it is, the execution is very different, right? Like, they want to be a team who doesn't defend much and has the ball the majority of the time, but they defend a lot and they want to play in transition. That's when they're best. So what I hear and what I see is like it's confusing. And so who are they going to be in the second half? I think I would imagine I would lean on transition if I'm trying to get wins, if I have the players that Bay has.
Yeah. It has been, there's a clear strength from goalkeeper up the spine through Dahlkemper that you can lean on for this team. It has been the moments where they try to become more, where they've kind of gotten lost, and then they go back and refine it. And it's been this like off on the entire time. And the question would be, if you just lean into that and like accept who you are, can you stack the most results potentially for the second half of the year? So this close out Saturday, and then Sunday we've got interesting schedule, but we have our primetime ABC game.
ABC.
Whoa, you're like a Friday night sitcom.
Yes.
Or whatever else. I couldn't think of an ABC TV show off the top of my head. That is not really my skill set. Washington is hosting Portland in this one. A couple things to note. We've talked about Sofia Cantore coming over from Italy, the lone player on the Italian national team roster who will be playing outside of Italy after this tournament until maybe some other signings happen.
Did you think that one girl looked like me, the center forward?
Did you get that a lot?
I got that so much.
Yeah. Well, your last name is Angeli, so it feels like it's probably not.
Well,
like
yeah. I mean, we could be distant cousins, but they're like, so many people were like, "You look." Why can't I think of her name right? Girelli.
Yeah.
Girelli. They're
I
like,
think so.
That's your twin. I'm like, is it? Maybe my cousin.
Maybe.
Anyways,
Where
that
are
was
you
a
from
tangent.
in Italy?
Where am I from?
Yeah.
Northern Italy.
Oh yeah. Okay, just northern.
Northeast.
None of it really means anything to me. Well, I've been,
Okay.
so I guess some of that does mean something to me.
Like near Lake Como, but
yeah.
not Lake Como.
Girelli was the one partner in Cantore, who now will come. Caruso was the other player where I was like, first of all, I was like, is Kyra Caruso playing for the Italian national team? Which would be cool. And I would assume Italy is one of those programs that will start to look into.
Well, she plays for Ireland, so she can't play for both.
No, I know.
Oh.
I got there eventually. Thank you. I appreciate that. But if you hear the name a couple times on TV and you're like, yeah, no, I'm watching an NWSL game. You're like, oh, no, I'm not watching an NWSL game. But I thought she was really, really impressive. there were a number of players I think you watch in these tournaments, you're like, I'd love to see this player come to NWSL and see what they could do. Cantore feels like one of those moves. Washington has done this as well as anyone. Of like, first of all, they did it before the Euros. So like you get a player who maybe their number shifts after. And second of all, like we keep saying, oh, I don't know where these players are going to play. And like, unfortunately for Washington, there have been a lot of injuries, but then that has meant that they've had players like Rose Kawasi step up in huge moments, or Rebecca Bernal step up in huge moments and become important. And now they make the announcement that Ashley Hatch is going on maternity leave. So congratulations to Ashley and her family. Very exciting, but also a huge loss. This is your starting center forward. This is a player who's shown flexibility. So if other injuries were to happen, you could have played her out wide. You could play her a little bit underneath. Like this is the staple of the attack because of the first half of the year without Croy Bethune and Trinity Rodman and so many other pieces that were missing. And Sophia Cantare feels like a true like starter and could hold that spot, especially if Rodman is back and healthy. Because if that's the case, the center forward role becomes less you have to be the leading goal scorer and more occupy space, drag the back line, create gaps underneath, lay off the right way, be an outlet in our build outs if we have to go direct. And like that role, I think, is much more manageable coming into the league than be the best player and be the, finisher for us.
I think being the finisher, though, to me is actually part of having Rodman back, because she can isolate so well and get after players that you do less work with maybe more reward.
Yeah.
And I would like that role if I was a center forward. So I would want Trinity Rodman back on the field. Yes, Rodman will get you goals, but I think Cantore, can you drag players away? Can you create the isolation for, even if it is Kwasi in the channel, there is similarities in her ability to go straight at a player and want to be 1v1 and maybe not the final product that Rodman has, but it's the same concept that I think Washington is trying to utilize with Rosemont Kawasi. So this Spirit team, the best thing for them was this break, because they're getting twice. That's the second time I hit the mouse.
Rusty coming off a summer break.
Third. I just hit it again. They had gotten some players back healthy, but it wasn't full minutes, right? We weren't seeing the fullness of Bethune. Are they getting Rodman back? Now you've gotten to utilize this time to like work on little details of getting those players back at full capacity. And that should be terrifying for opponents, because if you have Croy Bethune pulling the strings centrally, she has already shown us glimpses in these, like, I think 7 games she's been back, where she gets the ball at her foot and it is like, good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck trying to get it. This is going to be a really interesting game between them and Portland, because they just played 2 games ago, and Portland high pressed. Washington couldn't figure it out. They get a goal early, and then Washington had all the ball, and Portland defended really well. So I'm curious to see what the adjustments are made, how Washington is maybe different at home, and try to go after them a little bit more. Does Portland implement the same tactics? What formation does Washington play? I think that's like a big question mark every time the Spirit go out, is how will they set up with maybe not the formation, but the personnel in order to utilize the spaces that they want to pick out.
And of course, we should have mentioned Adrian Gonzalez now is the full-time head coach.
Yes.
I don't think this is pushed. I think this is natural. A lot of the content that's come out of the Washington Spirit has been like the players talking about him and what it's like playing for him and what he's like. And I don't think that's like trying to put lipstick on something or trying to make something look better than it is. Like, I think the players really like playing for him, but I think it is different. And so the question will be, obviously we had the success early last year when he was the head coach before Geraldes came. Like, does it go straight back into that? Is it different? Is there other things going on because now he's trying to build long-term into a different plan? There's a whole lot of question marks. What do you make, though, for Croy Bethune of the, like, recovery, back, off, and now back? Is this ideal of, like, you can sort of get that first burst and then get your body right? Or would it have been better to have been playing the high-leverage games and getting sharper at match speed?
I think it depends on the scenario. I think it was probably nice for her to know, okay, I am there. Now, what are the little things that I need to get right? Like when you're coming back from I'm not saying this is Croy at all, but when you're coming back from an injury, you might say like, my foot, like my foot feels a little weird. So maybe you get that right. Or I'm having a little pain in my hip. So maybe you can get that right. And as you're doing that, you're doing it from a standpoint of like, I am back instead of I can't wait to get back. And that mentality is just different. It just feels different. You're with the team. You're doing all the things with the team. At the same time, you're treating your body to perform at a high level instead of, I hope my body can get there.
Yeah.
So I think mentally it probably was really beneficial for her because she had some really solid performances, but even she knows that's not even her top. Like she has more. So I think this little bit of time, I would, if I were her, I would have been really thankful for it.
The final game of the weekend, 6 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday, Orlando against Utah. To note for Utah, Ana Maria Guzman, who is at Copa America Femenil anyway and playing for Utah, playing for Colombia, will then return to Bayern after this and will no longer be on loan with Utah. Orlando signed a ton of extensions in this summer break. It is like some of the best news you could have because when you're good, keeping your team together is really ideal. Haley McCutcheon, I know, re-signed. I'm trying to think of the other ones. Ali Lemos re-signed, and Zara Shavushi re-signed as well, who feels like can be a factor going forward at one of those center backs positions, which is wild because this is arguably the best center back depth pool in the entire league. For Utah, they were the big letdown the first half of the year. You know, we cried about it over and over again on this show. Orlando, it was shakier than expected. Utah was one of the teams that just made no attempt to change the way they played against Orlando and got absolutely smoked in the matchup. One of the few teams that really like let Banda get in space over the top in the left channel, which is where she will kill you time and again. So the assumption is Utah comes into this game a little bit different. And we've seen some teams now. I think we saw it for Angel City. I think we've seen it for San Diego. Matchups against Orlando, even if you don't get the win, can be like this emotional boost for you. And I think that's what Utah would be trying to use here.
And this game is in Orlando. And we've seen Orlando not be, I think overall, but even at home, not be as dominant as they have been, or as they were last year. You know, they squeaked out a win against Angel City coming from behind. I'm trying to think of a couple of the wins there. It was last minute. Like they really got pushed from some good defensive, cohesive units of teams. And does Utah have it in them? I think that's the question. They have, I think, a good center back pairing. Do they have health in the center backs that Tejada can be in the midfield? Because if they have Tejada and Zornoza, those two essentially, I think, elevate this team to not an elite level, but a much higher level than they are without them. But there's weaknesses at the outside back spot. And when you're playing Orlando, you don't really want to be weak at those spots. So how do you cover in the channels to make sure you have an advantage numerically to defend Orlando? This is going to be, I mean, for Utah, they could make a statement. Are they going to make a statement? I don't know.
Yeah. There's a lot of questions for both these teams in different ways. But for Orlando, the second half of the year is going to be interesting of they're probably not going to win the Shield. It's a different convo than last year. They've been challenged in different ways, in new ways. How do they find their level once again, heading towards the playoffs? How can they ensure that they have as many home games as possible? Because it was a factor last year. It was a reason, I think, that they ended up in the final at all. And then once you get there, you're talking potentially neutral site unless Bay is able to turn everything around. This is stuff we're going to be talking about for the next few months. We are very excited to have the soccer back. I feel unprepared to talk about Utah because I just have like no idea. And that's what's going to be fun about coming out of this weekend. We're going to learn so much about all of these teams, and the soccer has re-arrived. So thank you to all of you for listening. Thank you to all of you for watching. Thank you to you, Jordan, of course, for being here. Shout out to Morgan.